Hi, and welcome to another presentation from your business tutor, learning your way, anytime, anywhere. When we looked at tall and flat management structures, you will have noticed that one of the main differences between them was how quickly information passed through the structures, and hence how quickly decisions were made. Well, in this presentation, the emphasis will turn to where in the structure decisions are made and how this affects business success. So with that in mind, let's introduce today's presentation, which is on centralised and decentralised management structures. So what are we going to learn in today's presentation? Well, first of all, we're going to find out what a centralised and a decentralised management structure is. And then we're going to find out what the advantages and disadvantages of each of those structures are. Okay, so let's get started with our first question, which is, what are centralised and decentralised management structures? A centralised management structure describes a structure where all decisions are made by senior managers. For example, in the structure shown, all decisions are made by the top two layers of management, and staff below are just told what to do. Similarly, in a business with a branch network, as the diagram shows, all decisions will be made at head office or headquarters by senior staff, and branches are just told what to do. As can be seen, decision-making power is held in the hands of a few people located at the very top of the business. These senior managers or directors have complete control over the business. However, in a decentralised management structure, decisions are made at the most appropriate level in the business. This means, as the diagram shows, that decision-making occurs at each level in the organisation. Important decisions, such as deciding whether to grow the business, would be made by senior managers. Whereas decisions on how to allocate staff within departments or what equipment to buy would be made by middle management. Supervisors, on the other hand, would be involved in making routine minor decisions, such as ordering inventory or deciding on the staff rota. The whole idea is that the person in the best position to make the decision should make it. Of course, as with a centralised structure, a decentralised structure can also be shown visually for an organisation that has a branch network. As the diagram shows, decisions that affect the whole organisation at a national level should be made at head office, whereas decisions that only have an effect at branch or local level should be made at branch level. It would therefore be fair to say that a decentralised management structure believes in distributing decision making throughout the organisation. To allow this to happen effectively, staff at all levels are given appropriate authority to make decisions. Now that we know what a centralised and a decentralised management structure is, it would now be useful to find out when such structures should be used. As such, we will start by asking, what are the advantages of a centralised management structure? When initially described, most people find it difficult to see any positives in a structure where decision making is held at the top of the organisation by very few people. However, whilst this viewpoint has some strength, it fails to appreciate how the quality and consistency of decision making in a centralised structure can benefit an organisation. For example, senior managers by definition have vast amounts of experience, and given their position, have a complete overview of the business. This is important because when senior managers are making decisions, they can draw on their experience of past situations to make better, more informed choices. But more than that, because they have in-depth knowledge on the whole organisation, they can far more effectively determine how a decision will impact on different parts of the business. This overview is important because decisions are then made for the benefit of the whole organisation rather than specific departments or branches. However, as well as improving the quality of decision making, a centralised structure can also improve its consistency. For example, in order to create great customer service, senior management may decide to try to standardise procedures and service across an organisation and all its branches. They may do this by implementing a staff uniform, designing branches in the same way, putting all staff on a customer training course, and having the same products in all stores. By doing this, the business will ensure whenever a customer enters a branch, they will experience a consistent and high standard of customer service. But the benefits of consistency and standardisation across an organisation, which a centralised structure offers, don't end there. As we know, creating a single corporate identity is a major factor in creating a strong corporate culture in an organisation. It is clear that a centralised structure offers a number of benefits. But what about the disadvantages of a centralised management structure? One of the major problems that a centralised management structure suffers from is slow decision making. As all decision making goes through a small number of senior staff, it is easy for these managers to get bogged down in the sheer quantity of decisions that need to be made. This has an added consequence in that the business can become unresponsive to changes in the market. It takes so long for decisions to be made, and then for the organisation to implement changes across the whole business, that competitors steal a march on them. Another disadvantage linked to decision making is that a centralised structure fails to develop staff. As all decisions are concentrated in the hands of a few senior managers, staff further down the chain of command are given no decision-making power and hence have no opportunity to develop as managers for future promotion opportunities. But worse than that, as managers lower down the chain of command have no decision-making power or authority, this can demotivate and demoralise them as they are just told what to do. A final problem stems from the standardisation of procedures and products that occur when a centralised management structure is used. As we have seen, this can be an advantage as it creates a consistency of service as all customers are treated in the same way. However, in other circumstances, it can be an issue. For example, in some situations, customers expect to be treated in an individualised or bespoke way because they are spending a lot of money. Whereas in other circumstances, local needs can differ across a country. In Aberdeen, for example, butteries would be a popular bakery item in a supermarket, whereas in Manchester, an Eccles cake would be. What this shows is that standardisation across a business doesn't always work. Worse still, even if a centralised structure wanted to be responsive to differing local needs, it wouldn't be in a position to do so. The senior managers that make the decisions are so remote from each local situation that they wouldn't have the quality of information required to make tailored and effective local decisions. It is clear that a centralised structure has pros and cons, but to make a fair comparison of its effectiveness, we must also look at a decentralised management structure as well. So with that in mind, let's start by looking at the advantages of a decentralised structure. One of the major advantages of a decentralised management structure is that it promotes quick decision making. Routine decisions do not need to be referred up the chain of command, meaning managers on the ground in a branch could sort out a customer's problem there and then. This is exactly what a customer wants and leads to great service and higher sales. This type of decision making also allows managers at branch level to be more responsive to local needs. For example, managers in branches can personalise the service they offer and the products they stock based on the customers they face. Once again, this results in superior customer service and gives a business competitive advantage. But more than that, by giving staff further down the structure decision-making power, you not only motivate them because they have more control over their job, but you also tap into their creativity and knowledge. It is often the case that the person closest to the customer knows how best to deliver the service that that customer wants. Of course, another advantage of a decentralised structure is that providing staff throughout the organisation with decision-making power also helps to develop them for future promotion opportunities. But more than that, creates a feeling of trust in an organisation, which helps to build strong corporate culture. And finally, by distributing decision making throughout an organisation, the heavy weight of constant decision making is removed from the shoulders of senior management. This means they will now have more time to deal with the big strategic issues affecting their business, rather than getting bogged down in basic routine decisions. Let's now turn to our final question and ask, what are the disadvantages of a decentralised management structure? Probably the greatest challenge when implementing a decentralised management structure is deciding how decision making will be distributed throughout the organisation. In other words, deciding what decisions should be made at each level of management. If this is done badly, it can cause a major problem for a business, because you will then have inexperienced managers making decisions beyond their capabilities, which, as we know, could result in poor decisions being made or no decisions being made at all. However, even if it is done correctly, an organisation will have to make sure that it offers enough training and support to those given decision-making power. This can add to an organisation's costs because the training will have to be paid for, and more managers may be needed to be employed to support staff. Another problem with distributing decision-making throughout an organisation is that it can result in inconsistent decision-making. For example, different branches faced with the same problem may decide to do different things. This is not good for consistency of customer service across an organisation, which can adversely affect the business's reputation. Worse still, however, when branches or parts of a business have their own decision-making power, they can start to work in isolation or separately of each other. This is a disaster for the maintenance of a strong corporate culture, as it attacks the idea of a unified organisation which is at the heart of strong corporate culture. This, of course, can be exacerbated further if branches or parts of an organisation start to see their own self-interest above those of the organisation. If that happens, corporate culture can crumble as branches and departments start to compete against each other and refuse to share resources and expertise. So what did we learn in this presentation? Well, first of all, we found out what centralised and decentralised management structures are. Thereafter, we went on to identify the advantages and disadvantages of each of those management structures. We have talked before about how the success of an organisation's management structure is not determined by the structure chosen, but rather by how it is implemented and managed. Good management realises that no one structure solves all problems. The key is to realise the weaknesses in a structure and manage those effectively so that the organisation is not adversely affected. A case in point is the choice between a centralised and a decentralised management structure. For example, a management team may decide to adopt a decentralised management structure because they believe this will allow branches to provide a more personalised service to their customers that better meets local needs. However, a clever management team would also realise that in certain areas of the business a more centralised structure would be appropriate. For example, to take advantage of bulk buying discounts, senior management may insist that branches have to place their inventory orders with head office, who will then place one large order for all branches. What this shows is that the decision on whether to use a centralised or decentralised structure is not black and white. In fact, it is possible to get the best of both worlds if management are innovative in their approach.